Well, we have with us now Belkys Torres, who's a graduate student at Notre Dame, doing her work in English literature, I believe. Fun. Latino literature. Yeah. Excellent, excellent. So, when did latcrit happen to you?
Latcrit actually crept up on me. I ended up working with Frank Valdez, who's an administrative assistant at the University of Miami. And that's when I started learning about the latcrit and thinking and theory. And it was actually very interesting because I learned a lot about who the scholars were actually transcribing their work and reading through manuscripts and prepping them for publication or getting materials together for, I think it was the latcrit 8. It's been a while.
And what did it do for you? What did it do to you?
It actually encouraged me to go back to graduate school because at that time I was straddling the decision of either going to law school or going back to grad school or sticking around and working at the university. And it really encouraged me to go back and think through theories and criticism on Latino studies in particular. And getting back out there, I felt like I wanted to engage in conversation and felt like I needed to go back to school and work on getting the knowledge that I needed to insert English and speaking.
Most of the crowd here is lawyers, law professors, law students. Do you feel out of step, or are you?
That's an interesting question. I think at the beginning I did when I started attending, I think it was latcrit 9 as a participant. I felt a little bit out of sorts, but Frank in particular encouraged me to pursue this line of thinking where interdisciplinarity is an actually added bonus to the latcrit conversations. And so ever since then I've made a place for myself and encouraged others to do the same with regard to incorporating latcrit theory and avenues that move beyond law and theory practice. So in my own work I focus on the issues of popular culture and popular culture, and so I look at the ways in which they mass subversive thinking, alternative communities, how we empower women through popular culture. And I found a very nurturing place in latcrit conferences to think about those issues and to present them in different ways.
Well, let me turn personal a bit, given that you've told us your work with Frank and how that led to latcrit. So, who's Frank Valdez?
Well, it's interesting. To many people, he's just sort of this name that's attached to latcrit, one of the co-founders of the organization. To me in particular, he's been an encouraging spirit, someone who's motivated me to continue to think about latcrit theory in an interdisciplinary way. That's him to me in a sort of professional level. On a very personal note, Frank has always been someone who's very supportive of the decisions that I've made, including when I had to tell him that I was no longer going to work for them in order to pursue my career. And so he's someone who is an incredibly positive spirit, someone who is very encouraging and has an incredible vision of what latcrit can still become. With regard to opening up the space to different disciplines.
So how does he or Nasby do getting all this done? Looks like it would take more than one soul.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and I think the way that Frank in particular works is that he gets the rest of us going, right? So he spent I think a large part of last decade actually working and publishing and making this conference and this organization what it is. But I think in the past few years he's actually taken on this role of catalyst for change in different ways, where he encourages the rest of us to actually take on a more active and participatory role in the organization in different ways. I see him now more of a sort of history book, right, where he's starting to pass on all of this knowledge of what latcrit was and what it should become onto the newer generations that are coming up.
I see that latcrit's portfolio has grown. We are now doing, I don't know, a dozen and a half. I lose the count how many things are going on. What in that whole lineup in particular interests you or intrigues you?
Well, I work directly with the latcrit letter and some other facets of the publications projects, simply because I'm interested in literature and in the publication industry. So I find that incredibly fascinating because it helps us keep record of who we are and how we're doing. It also helps to bridge gaps in communication. So the e-letter in particular, the information recipe that Charles is responsible for actually allow us to communicate with so many people that are really disconnected in terms of geography, etc. So I think that bridging that gap is important. And the e-letter, I think the e-letter are always keeping in touch with when we aren't physically present with all these people.
And what about the conference? You keep coming back.
I do.
What's going on? What's up?
Well, I love it, and I think one of the interesting things is that people keep asking me, because I'm not a law student or a law professor, why do I keep coming back? Why am I here? And my answer is always the same. I am fascinated by the language that is spoken at latcrit conferences and that is published in our work. It's a language that evokes solidarity and it also evokes a sense of coalition building in ways that isn't yet present in other kinds of ideologies in college. And that's what really fascinates me, the conversations that you have with people at conferences, the ways in which people are using language in a new and innovative way. I was just at a session where someone had said that they had created a latcrit dictionary out of words that have really been created through the conferences and publications that come out of these particular projects. And I find that really interesting.
Well, let's keep doing it, and more and more and more. And good luck with your graduate work, and